What anticipation is for me is to be able to place yourself in an unknown land of the future, and to be able to also see the different ways that you're looking at that land.
The way in which I understand anticipation is the transformation of what we are able to see about the future into action. Just to give you a simple exemplification, watching a weather forecast is not anticipation in my understanding, but watching a weather forecast and as a consequence taking your umbrella before going to your work is an anticipatory behavior. So anticipation in this sense has to do with actions and on a more general scale, strategy and decisions and what you do in order to achieve results or whatever you are looking for.
That from this approach, we are not seeing or looking for a target in the future. We are looking to open up the present and to see the present in a different way.
Futures literacy, which is to me the command of the discipline of anticipation, you're futures literate when you understand the discipline of anticipation, is just that. It's just this ability to understand this tool that we use, which is our imagination of what the future might be, and to be more explicit about the different ways of using it and the different techniques.
But generally speaking, anticipation is a forward-looking activity. It has many names. Anticipation is one of the newer ones. Foresight, future studies, and all of those do have nuances and differences.
If you take this kind of anticipatory systems kind of theoretical point of view, it leads to very different understanding of what is impact, how we actually create the future, what is the future also, and how we are systems that also create these models of the future and act based on the models. And so we don't react on what is there, but we react on what is our prediction of what is going to be there.
The roots of these understandings, lie in the work of Robert Rosen, who was a mathematical biologist trying to understand what is life. That was his starting point. And in order to try to provide an answer to these basic questions, he developed the idea of anticipatory system. And the real, I would say that the most relevant result of his job has been understanding that most of reality is anticipatory in one way or another.
All living systems are anticipatory systems. And it means, for instance, that, if you take it to the kind of human level, human individuals, all our action is based on predictions of their consequences. We see the world as a meaningful world. We don't see it as a kind of objective atoms, but we see the world as possibilities for action. So we see objects and things where we think that we can do something. And this is the meaningful world that we operate in. But the meaning itself is all the time based on our anticipation of what would be the consequences of my action. So this also has a kind of view on knowledge which is very kind of action-oriented. So the world is not out there to be discovered, but it's actually constructed by ourselves.
The universe is created out of words. So whatever you say is important. In foresight, I learned that there are stories, that there are many, many stories, that in fact, what people say is the future is just their story of the future. So in a way, the storytelling, the words, then can become, important tools for imagining, for creating the future. Now, the difference, I guess, here is you consciously taking away, peeling away some of the underlying assumptions that go towards, any image of the future or the present in a way. Now, what happens when you take those out? What happens if I don't, if I'm not standing on this leg? What else can I stand on?
There is the possibility of taking this innovative and creative aspect seriously. And that leads to a foresight where you actually explore things, you can only make sense of these things after they exist. So you first have to create future and then try to think what it means and what would be the facts that actually can be associated with this. So the method would be much more kind of agile, dynamic, experimentation oriented, bringing new kind of meaning horizons together and kind of playing with the future. So it's kind of a much more innovative, creative thing. It's not an epistemic stance. It's not a question about knowing the future. It's actually about creating the future.
There's many diverse ways of using the future. And I think it's quite an important breakthrough to get people to begin to say, oh yes, I am using the future, because that immediately generates an item, something. If I'm using it, what is it? So once you're using something, it provides you with an incentive to think about your mastery of the tool. So instrumentalizing the future in a more explicit way is a tactic that is intended to push people to think, to become more conscious of the fact that they can use the future in different ways. And once you begin to pose the question of, can I use the future in different ways, you have both the ontological, what is the future that I'm looking at? Is it closed? Is it open? And you have, how do I think about the future? Is it some sort of deterministic, econometric model? How am I fabricating my imagination?
La prospective, ça peut être un outil de débat, ça peut être un outil d'aide à la décision, ça peut être un outil d'orientation stratégique. Et surtout, ça peut être un outil de conduite de changement, parce que les gens, ils ont beaucoup d'inertie, donc ils n'acceptent pas le changement. Ça, c'est les dépologies. Il y a différentes perspectives qu'on observe aussi. Ça, c'est très important dans le monde, parce qu'elle est très utilisée par la politique et le politique. Donc, il y a la perspective autocratique. C'est-à-dire, je construis pour toi des futurs et tu es obligé de suivre. Donc, on est dans l'autocratie totale. Ça marche pendant 4-5 ans, mais après, elle peut disparaître. Il y a la prospective idéologique qui draine une certaine idéologie. Donc on peut formater les gens et les ramener vers un futur catastrophique. Il y a pour moi qui est très importante, c'est le mix entre prospective exploratoire et normative.
One thing that I see at work behind the process here at the UNESCO Youth Forum is an impulse to democratize these tools. So instead of confining it to today's decision makers and the boardrooms and the summits of the world, to try to bring these ways of being more systematic and creative about possible futures to other kinds of constituencies. Now, this is a formal process for sure, but I think it's a positive sign that it can be democratized to all sorts of people of all ages from all countries of the world. We've just seen 500 people engage in a futures process in almost all cases, I would guess, for the first time. And this is the stage that the development of this discourse is at right now. It's I think at a threshold for democratization, for making it normal to think systematically and creatively about possible futures as a part of how we exercise our citizenship.
There is no magic, there is no shamanism. It's all in front of everybody's eyes. There is no black box that gives answers. There's just the power of a human congregation, of a group of people that can address some problems, or that can address some of their challenges and learn more about themselves.
For me, I think what foresight does is empowers, and I want to use that word in the most positive way. It gives us the capacity to think that what we think matters, what we do matters in our world.
And so if we become better at appreciating complexity, seeing uncertainty as a resource, not an enemy, because of course it's an enemy of planning, we can shift the origins of our fear and construct our hope in a different way. And if we can do that, I think it allows our identity to be more whole with respect to our origins, so the past, but also our aspirations. And that presumably will make people happier and more at ease with who they are in a universe that has this amazing potential to change.
Change is what is important in this work. So it's a little bit disruptive, it's a little bit subversive, and just being able to help people understand that anything which perpetuates the current dominant systems or status quo is basically a colonization of our futures, and just reframing the way we think about how we ourselves perpetuate it in our languages, in our metaphors, in our practices. Also, our practices are very much embedded in certain cultures and models.
It's a very inclusive way to create knowledge, because there is no one with better knowledge than the other. And this is very important to build confidence and to feel free to create.
Si je ne comprends pas, culturellement parlant, comment l'autre il perçoit le futur, comment tu perçois le futur, comment mon voisin perçoit le futur, donc c'est perdu d'avance. Donc moi je veux converger mon futur et je ne prends pas en considération ton futur. Et ça, c'est une question sociologique, philosophique, idéologique, culturelle, conceptuelle qu'il faut intégrer. Donc il ne faut pas qu'on s'attarde seulement sur les outils et les méthodes. Moi, à mon sens, pour réussir la prospective à l'UNESCO, il faut faire le mariage entre la pratique, je suis d'accord, c'est très important la pratique et on voit très bien ce qui se passe aujourd'hui. Moi-même, je suis impliqué, donc je suis convaincu de ça. Mais surtout la recherche conceptuelle pour avancer tout ce qui est épistémologique dans la pensée prospective à travers une approche culturaliste.
Forces coming from the past are just half of the picture. There are forces and ideas and hopes and fears coming from the future, so to say. So this anticipation from this point of view is that framework that may help to rewrite the human and social sciences, giving equal root, equal strength to both the past and the future. And the present is that situation in which these forces, interact, and sometimes the past is the force that wins, or sometimes the future may take the lead and bring us towards new horizons.
The why is to experiment and to try to improvise new ways of being so that we might have different futures. So one of the images that I have in my mind is kind of the way that we approach things so far is usually thinking that if we change the structures, we'll change the way people behave and we'll have a well-oiled machine in our societies. But it's actually the reverse. If we change the way people interact, we change the way people think and behave, which brings new structures naturally into existence. That's, for me, the why, is again, somehow changing the assumptions underneath what we think change is. Because in the final countdown, anticipation, foresight, and futures is about change.
We can describe our theories behind what we're doing, but in a sense, it remains to be seen what impact it'll actually have. Speaking frankly, we don't know exactly, but that's because we've never had a society that's really attempted to do this.